Okay, so get ready, because we are diving headfirst into some of the most chilling tales that Scotland has to offer.
And believe me when I say Scotland has stories.
And I bet it does.
Enough to keep you up at night.
But we're not just talking about your run-of-the-mill ghost stories here.
No, no, no.
We're talking about the kind of hauntings that are so deeply ingrained in the history and the landscape
The very fabric of the country.
that you can't help but wonder if maybe, just maybe, there's something more to it.
And it's a place where those lines between history, folklore, and fear, they get a little blurry.
Very blurry, and we are jumping right into the thick of it with one of the most infamous locations in all of Scottish ghost lore.
Oh, here we go.
Hermitage Castle.
You know what I love about these places?
What's that?
Even the names themselves just sound...
Oh, they're heavy, aren't they?
Hermitage, like it sounds...
It sounds like it should be haunted.
Exactly.
And Hermitage Castle more than lives up to its name.
Oh, absolutely.
It's this imposing fortress nestled in this really desolate and almost haunting landscape, even in the daytime.
You can just feel it, can't you? Like, even when the sun's out, there's
It's a vibe.
a vibe, there's a weight to the place.
Yeah, and it's not just the looks, it's the history, too.
Centuries of violence.
Bloodshed, yeah.
Intrigue.
It's all there, soaked into the stones.
It really is.
And one of the most famous stories from Hermitage, it's about this guy, William Douglas.
Okay, yeah, the Knight of Liddesdale, they called him.
Catchy name.
It's a good one, isn't it?
He was a powerful figure, but he was also known for being incredibly ruthless.
Let's just say he didn't make a lot of friends.
He made some enemies,
A few.
and one of them, a rival named Sir Alexander Ramsay, well, let's just say Douglas decided to deal with him in a, shall we say, definitive way.
Not exactly a friendly rivalry, was it?
Not at all. He imprisons Ramsay in the castle dungeons.
Oh, the dungeons at Hermitage, you can feel the despair.
Right
It's
on.
palpable.
And he doesn't just imprison him, he leaves him there to die in absolutely horrific conditions.
Talk about adding insult to injury.
No light, no sanitation, just cold, hard stone and the slow creep of despair.
The things people do for power, eh?
It's wild, and you know what makes it even creepier?
What's that?
Some people say they can still hear Ramsay's desperate groans echoing through the castle to this day.
I mean, I don't know if I believe in ghosts,
But
but
you can feel it.
it's a chilling thought.
It really is.
You wonder if those stones could talk.
If they could only talk, what would they tell us?
Imagine the stories.
And that's just the beginning of Hermitage's creepy history. We haven't even gotten to Sir William de Soulis.
Oh, he makes the Knight of Liddesdale look like a choir boy.
I mean, they didn't call him the Bad for nothing.
Right. This is a guy who was rumored to be dabbling in black magic, talking to demons.
Blood rituals, even rumors of sacrificing children.
It's the stuff of nightmares.
It's dark, dark stuff.
And the locals, they'd had enough. They went to Robert the Bruce himself, begging for help.
Now, I've heard different versions of this story.
Me too.
But the gist is basically the king gave them permission to deal with the Suli in a very creative way.
And that's how the story goes.
Boil him if you must. That's what the king supposedly said.
It's a bit on the nose, isn't it?
Just a tad.
Talk about a hands-on approach to dealing with a tyrant.
He did.
Boiled him alive.
Ergo.
You've got to wonder what kind of mark that leaves on a place, you know?
The energy, the rage, the fear.
It's like it seeps into the walls.
People say you can still feel it, that the Suli's presence lingers, along with the cries of children.
It really makes you question what we leave behind, doesn't it?
It's like a stain on history that just won't wash away.
It's the kind of place that even Sir Walter Scott himself wrote about.
Really?
He said the locals believed Hermitage Castle was sinking under the weight of its own evil.
Yikes. That's not a good look.
Not at all.
Okay, so from one creepy castle to another.
We're on a roll now.
Buckle up, because we are headed to Blackness Castle, which some people call the ship that never sailed, because it kind of looks like a stone ship from the water.
It does, isn't it?
But it's also been called the ship that never sailed for a much more ominous reason.
Oh, how so?
Some say it's where nightmares go to retire.
I can see that, perched right on that jagged piece of rock, almost swallowed by the water.
If Hermitage is a whisper of unease, Blackness is a full-on scream.
And like Hermitage, it was used as a prison for centuries.
Can you imagine the things those walls have seen?
The suffering.
The despair.
Stories they could tell.
There's this one story about a woman visiting the castle with her young sons.
Okay, what happened?
They're exploring this tower. They call it the prison tower, which you have to admit,
Doesn't bode well, does it?
no, it doesn't.
Not at all.
So they're exploring this tower, and the mom suddenly gets this overwhelming sense of dread.
Like someone's walked over her grave.
Worse, she turns around, and standing there is a figure straight out of a nightmare. A fully armored knight, just standing there, staring at her.
Oh, no thank you.
She doesn't just see him, he starts walking toward her.
Oh, no, 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 I'm out.
She grabs her kids, and she runs out of there.
Smart woman.
She said she could hear the sound of his armor clanging behind her the whole way.
That's terrifying. It's like something out of a horror movie.
It's like those primal fears we talked about. They just come bubbling up.
Even if you don't believe in ghosts, that would shake you up.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of shaking things up,
What else happened at Blackness?
there's a story about a group who got permission to stay overnight for a Halloween ghost hunt.
Okay, that's brave.
And naturally, things got weird.
I can only imagine.
They said they were kept awake most of the night by the sound of furniture being dragged and thrown around in the room below them.
No way.
They even went to investigate, but of course, when they got down there,
No.
nothing was out of place, no explanation.
Got it? Classic. It's always the unexplained stuff that gets you.
It really is.
Makes you wonder, is it our imaginations running wild?
Or is it something else?
Maybe, just maybe. Some stories have a way of etching themselves into the very fabric of a place.
Waiting for the right moment, the right energy to make themselves known again?
It's a chilling thought, isn't it?
Okay, so we've had creepy castles and phantom nights.
What's next on our Scottish adventure?
How about a ghost story that unfolds beneath the bustling streets of Edinburgh?
We're going underground.
We are heading underground into the dark, winding alleyways known as the Closes, and specifically to a place called Mary King's Close.
Oh, Mary King's Close. That's a name that sends shivers down your spine.
And for good reason.
Why's that?
This place is like a time capsule of history, frozen in time beneath the city streets.
And not the good kind of time capsule either?
Definitely not. We're talking cramped conditions, poverty, and to top it all off, the plague hit Mary King's Close hard.
Oh no, not the plague.
The plague, and when I say hard,
They walled it up, didn't they?
they walled up some of the closes to try and stop the spread of the disease.
Can you imagine the horror? Being trapped down there?
With the sick and dying,
Knowing there was no escape.
talk about a recipe for a haunting.
I mean, it's like the perfect storm, right? Tragedy, fear, despair.
It's all there. And some people say that residual energy, that pain, it's what fuels the stories.
Yeah, what stories they are.
Oh, we're just getting started. It's said that those who died in the plague, their cries can still be heard.
Oh, that's awful.
And you know it gets even creepier.
Creepier than that.
Oh, yeah.
How is that possible?
There were stories of a ghostly child seen clutching a doll, a disembodied head, even phantom animals.
A disembodied head. See, that's a bit much, even for me.
It's like a whole spectral zoo down there.
It makes you wonder, what is it about places like Mary King's Close that seem to hold on to these dark memories?
Right. Like, is it the energy of the people who lived and died there?
Or maybe it's something about the way these spaces were built.
The darkness, the narrow passageways, it's like stepping back in time.
Maybe it's a bit of both, you know? The physical space combined with the weight of history.
And speaking of history and hauntings,
Okay.
we have to talk about the story of the little girl and the doll.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about this one. Heartbreaking.
So there was this Japanese psychic medium, and she's filming a documentary in Edinburgh.
Okay.
And they take her to Mary King's Close. But crucially, they don't tell her anything about its history.
Interesting. So no preconceived notions.
Exactly. She's going in blind.
Okay.
So they're walking through the close, and she suddenly stops in one of the rooms, totally overwhelmed by this wave of despair.
Oh, no.
And as she turns to leave,
Yeah.
she feels something tugging on her pant leg.
No way.
I know, right? So she looks down, and there's this little girl dressed in rags, her face covered in sores.
Oh, that's just awful. Poor girl.
And the little girl, she tells the medium that she died in the plague back in the 1600s and that she lost her doll.
Oh, that's so sad.
And she's all alone.
You know, even for skeptics like me, it's hard not to be moved by a story like that.
Oh, absolutely. It just tugs at your heartstrings.
It's that universal fear, isn't it, of being alone, forgotten, especially as a child.
It's primal. And the crew, they were totally shaken by the experience.
Yep, they were.
So they went out and bought a doll, and they left it in the room for the little girl.
That's really sweet of them.
And ever since then, visitors have been leaving toys and gifts in that room.
It's like they're trying to make amends for the past, you know, offering comfort where there was once only suffering.
It's a beautiful thought, but also incredibly sad when you think about it.
It is. It really is.
Okay, so from the darkness of Mary King's Close, let's lighten things up a bit.
Please, let's have something a little less Intense.
How about a castle that's not afraid of a little ghostly companionship?
A friendly ghost. Now that I can get behind.
Let's head north to Balgony Castle, a place where history and hauntings seem to go hand in hand.
Balcony Castle. I've heard of this place. It's supposed to be beautiful.
Oh, it is absolutely stunning, and it's got a really interesting cast of characters, or should I say spectral residents.
Do tell.
Oh, we've got a ghostly old man who likes to hang out in the courtyard, a head and collar that pops out of a wall from time to time.
A head and collar. That's a new one.
Right, and then there's the phantom dog and its owner, who have a habit of disappearing into thin air.
It sounds more like a party than a haunting.
It does, doesn't it? And the family who owns the castle, they don't seem too bothered by it.
Really?
They've basically embraced their ghostly roommates.
I kind of love that, like they're all just part of this big, weird, historical family.
A different perspective on hauntings, that's for sure.
It definitely is. Instead of being afraid, they're choosing to coexist.
Oh, and they've got some pretty good stories about their spectral house guests.
Oh, I bet they do. Like what?
So one evening, Margaret, the Lady of Balcony, she was dozing by the fire when she woke up to find a man in 17th century clothing just chilling on the sofa opposite her.
Hold on, what? Just casually hanging out on the sofa?
Just casually hanging out like he was the most normal thing in the world.
That's incredible. Did she say what happened?
Well, she said she got a good look at him, and later she saw a portrait of the first Earl of Leven and realized it was the same guy.
No way. So it was like a ghostly meet and greet?
Pretty much. But the castle's most famous ghost, that honor goes to Green Genie.
Green Genie. That's a name with some stories behind it, I bet.
Oh, you bet. She's been a fixture at Balcony since at least the 1800s.
What's her story? Why is she called Green Genie?
Well, no one knows for sure, but she's often seen as this figure in a flowing green dress, her face hidden.
The woman in green, it's a classic ghost story trope, isn't it?
It really is. And get this.
What?
Someone even claims to have captured her image on camera.
Oh, come on. Really? Do you believe it?
I don't know. That's the thing about these stories. They make you wonder.
They really do.
Okay. From a castle that welcomes its ghosts to a site where history casts a long, imposing shadow.
Sounds ominous.
It is. We're heading to Abbey Craig, a place forever linked to one of Scotland's most legendary figures, William Wallace.
Ah, William Wallace, even without the Hollywood treatment, his story is one for the ages.
Talk about a life story that practically screams movie adaptation.
It's all there, the underdog, the epic battles, the fight for freedom. It's classic.
And Abbey Craig is where it all comes together.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the site of the Battle of Stirling Bridge.
One of those battles that just gets etched into history, isn't it?
Absolutely. Wallace and his army completely outnumbered, outmatched, but they were fighting for their freedom, and sometimes that's all that matters.
And they were fighting on home turf.
That always helps.
Knowing the land, using it to your advantage can make all the difference.
And in this case, it did. The Scots were victorious against all odds.
A victory for the history books.
And they say if you stand on those heights at Abbey Craig, you can almost hear the echoes of that battle.
Oh, come on now.
I know, right? Maybe it's just the wind whistling through the crags.
Or maybe it's the spirits of Scottish warriors past cheering you on.
Okay, from the echoes of battle to the lingering scent of mystery.
This sounds intriguing.
Oh, it is. We're off to Dalzell House, a grand old mansion with an elegant problem, a penchant for spectral perfume.
A ghost with a taste for fine fragrance. That's new.
Right. Forget chains rattling and things that go bump in the night at Dalzell House. It's all about the aroma.
So what's the story? Who is this perfume-loving phantom?
They call her the Green Lady. And the story goes, she was a maidservant who met a rather tragic end.
Tragic how?
Well, some say she was walled up within the house itself.
Oh, no. That is way too close to Mary King's Close for my liking.
Yeah, it's not the most pleasant way to go, that's for sure.
Definitely not. And to think her spirit is still lingering all these years later, still haunting those halls.
And get this, it's not just one ghost at Dalzell House. There's also a gray lady and a white lady.
Wait, there are 3 ghosts in this house and they're all women.
It's like a spectral slumber party, but with more moaning and less giggling.
You know what this calls for? A whole separate deep dive into just the ghosts of Dalzell House.
I'm in, but maybe we say that for another time.
Agreed, baby step.
Okay, from multiple hauntings to a more singular specter, let's journey to Traquair House, a place so steeped in history it practically oozes from the walls.
I do love a good historic home, especially one with a good ghost story.
Oh, Traquair House has got stories for days. I mean, this place has been continuously inhabited for centuries. Mary Queen of Scots even stayed there.
Royalty and ghosts, what more could you ask for?
Right. But here's the thing. Despite this rich history, Traquair House isn't exactly known for being overrun with ghosts.
So who is the resident ghost celebrity?
Her name was Lady Louisa Stewart, and she was quite the character in her day.
Oh, how so?
Well, for starters, she lived to the ripe old age of almost 100.
Good innings, as they say.
And get this. There's a story about a groundskeeper who encountered Lady Louisa walking through the estate, and he described her clothing in detail.
Okay, and what's so special about that?
Well, someone showed him a book of fabric samples from Lady Louisa's time.
No.
And he was able to identify the exact material her dress was made of.
That sends chills down my spine, and not the good kind.
Okay, so we've had heartbroken ghosts, phantom nights, and even a perfume-loving lady. But how about a haunted hotel with a very particular set of rules?
Okay, you've got my attention. What kind of rules are we talking about?
Welcome to Ravenswood House, where you can have a pint, but tea is strictly forbidden.
Hold on. You can have a beer, but not a cup of tea.
You heard that right. Apparently, when the original owner drew up the lease for the property, he included a clause banning the sale of both alcohol and tea.
Okay, that's a new one. What was this guy's problem with tea?
No one knows for sure, but some say he was a staunch teetotaler. Others that he just had a really bad experience with a bad brew.
Some people just can't let go of a grudge, can they, even in the afterlife?
Apparently not so. Guests at Ravenswood can enjoy a wee dram. But if they want a cup of Earl Grey, they better BYOB, bring your own brew.
That's hilarious. I love it.
And the ghostly goings-on at Ravenswood don't stop there. Guests have reported seeing a bearded figure in an Iran sweater, keeping an eye on things, probably the tea-hating former owner.
Can you imagine checking into a hotel and finding out the ghost has a tea vendetta?
It would make for an interesting TripAdvisor review, that's for sure.
Haunted hotel, great amenities, but don't even think about bringing a chamomile tea bag. 1 star.
Okay, from a hotel with a no-tea policy to a palace that's a little less cozy and a lot more windswept, get ready for Spiny Palace, former home to the Bishops of Moray, and a whole lot of spectral shenanigans.
Yeah, ships and shenanigans, that's not a combination you hear every day.
This place was a major power center in Scotland back in the day.
What kind of shenanigans are we talking about here?
Oh, just your average disembodied faces peering from windows.
Yeah.
A mysterious white mist that can knock you off your feet.
A mist that can knock you over. That's a new one.
And my personal favorite, a phantom skull that photobombs tourist pictures.
A photobombing skull. Okay, now that's just mischievous.
Right. Like, do ghosts have a sense of humor? Or are they just messing with us?
The world may never know.
Okay, from photobombing skulls to a grumpy ghost with a rather unfortunate habit.
This sounds promising.
Let's visit Leith Hall, a stately home with a ghost who's not afraid to get a little handsy.
Handsy, how so?
Well, they say the ghost of John Leith, the third laird of Leith Hall, he's not too happy about being dead.
And he's taking it out on the guests.
Well, let's just say he's got a thing for scratching people in their sleep.
Okay, that's not creepy at all. You know what? I take it back. I'd rather have a ghost who judges my tea choices than one who uses me as a scratching post.
I'm right there with you.
Although a spectral tea party could be fun. We could invite the green lady from Dalzell House.
Now you're talking. But maybe we should hold off on inviting the ghost of John Leith. I'd rather not wake up with any mysterious scratches.
Good call.
Okay, from a grumpy ghost with a scratching problem, brace yourselves, because this next one is a real doozy. We're heading deep into the Scotty Islands to a place called the Well of the Seven Heads.
The Well of the Seven Heads. That name alone is sending chills down my spine.
Oh, this is as bad as it sounds.
Worse.
Way worse. Picture this 17th century clan warfare is all the rage, and a young clan chief and his brother are murdered.
Okay, not a great start.
It gets worse. 7 men are found guilty, and the clan decides to make an example of them.
Let me guess they didn't just send them a strongly worded letter?
Not quite. They hunted them down, killed them, and beheaded them.
Oh my god, that's brutal.
And if that wasn't gruesome enough, they washed the severed heads in a nearby spring, the Well of the Seven Heads, and then displayed them on spikes as a warning.
A warning. More like a scene straight out of a horror movie. That's the stuff of nightmares.
And just in case anyone forgot about this lovely little tale, someone erected a monument by the roadside in the 19th century, complete with 7 stone heads perched atop a pillar.
You know what they say about keeping your enemies closer?
I don't think that's what they meant.
Probably not, but hey, at least it's a memorable landmark.
Memorable in all the wrong ways.
Fair enough.
Okay, let's cleanse our palates with something a little more lighthearted. How about a trip to a place that needs no introduction? Get ready to dive into the legend of Nessie.
Ah, Blackness. Beautiful, mysterious, and home to a certain elusive monster.
I mean, you have to admit there's something alluring about the idea of a giant prehistoric creature lurking beneath the surface of this vast, murky loch.
It's like something out of a fairy tale or a horror movie, depending on how you look at it.
Exactly. It's that perfect blend of wonder and terror that keeps people coming back for more.
And the fact that we still don't know for sure whether or not Nessie exists, well, that just adds to the intrigue.
It's the mystery that keeps on giving.
Exactly. And you know what they say about some mysteries being best left unsolved?
From a legendary monster to a legendary love story gone wrong, our next stop takes us back to where it all began, Hermitage Castle.
Wait, back to Hermitage Castle. I thought we were done with that creepy place.
You thought we were too, but apparently Hermitage has one more story to tell the tale of the Green Lady.
The Green Lady of Hermitage Castle? Is this a different Green Lady than the one from Dalzell House?
Different castle, same tragic theme. This Green Lady is thought to be the ghost of Dame Lilias Drummond.
Dame Lilias Drummond. Why does that name sound familiar?
Remember the poor woman whose husband traded her in for a younger model?
Oh no, not her again. She gets around, doesn't she?
She does, and her story seems to be forever linked to heartbreak and haunting.
So what's her story at Hermitage Castle? I'm almost afraid to ask.
Well, after Lilias died, supposedly of a broken heart, her husband married his new flame and brought her back to Hermitage.
Bad move, dude. Bad move.
Tell me about it. But it gets worse. On their wedding night, they were plagued by strange noises, and the next morning they found something truly chilling.
Don't tell me scratched into the wall was.
You guessed it, Lilias's initials.
No way she got her revenge from beyond the grave. That's dedication.
Right. And it didn't stop there. People have reported seeing a woman in a green dress, the color of jealousy, wandering the castle, her presence often accompanied by the scent of roses.
That's both romantic and terrifying.
It really is.
Poor Lilias. She just wants to be remembered.
Okay, from heartbreak to historical bloodshed, our journey through haunted Scotland takes us now to the Pass of Killiecrankie.
The Pass of Killiecrankie, that name sounds vaguely familiar.
It's a place of stunning natural beauty, but also of deep historical significance. It's where the Battle of Killiecrankie took place in 1689.
The Battle of Killiecrankie, that was a major turning point in the Jacobite Rising, wasn't it?
Exactly. It was a brutal fight for the throne that left its mark on the land and on the stories that are told about it.
So what kind of stories are we talking about here?
Well, they say that to this day you can still hear the echoes of battle, the clash of swords, the roar of muskets, even the screams of fallen soldiers.
Oh, wow. That's intense. It's like the land itself is haunted by the memory of that day.
And the stories aren't limited to just sounds either. People have reported seeing ghostly soldiers marching through the mist, the sight of spectral bodies littering the battlefield.
It's as if the past is bleeding into the present.
Exactly. And it's a stark reminder that some battles are never truly over.
Especially when they're fought on such hallowed ground.
Okay, so we've explored creepy castles, haunted hotels, and even with a rather gruesome history. But our final destination takes us to one of Scotland's most magnificent castles, Fyvie Castle.
Oh, Fyvie Castle. I've heard of this one. It's said to be absolutely stunning.
Oh, it is stunning architecture, a history spanning centuries, and of course, because this is Scotland, we're talking about a whole host of resident ghosts.
It wouldn't be a proper Scottish castle without a few ghosts now, would it? So tell me more about Fyvie Castle. What kind of spirits roam its halls?
Well, the most famous ghost of Fyvie Castle is none other than the Green Lady.
Another Green Lady. This seems to be a theme.
It does, doesn't it? But this Green Lady is different.
Hmm.
She's thought to be the ghost of Dame Lilias Drummond.
Wait a minute. Dame Lilias Drummond. As in the heartbroken wife from Hermitage Castle.
The one and only, it seems, her spectral revenge tour took her to Fyvie Castle as well.
This woman knows how to hold a grudge even in death.
And she's not afraid to make her presence known either.
People have reported seeing her all over the castle, often in a green dress, her face pale and sorrowful.
It's tragic, really. She's trapped in her grief, forever bound to the places where she experienced so much pain.
And so we come to the end of our deep dive into the haunted history of Scotland.
That was quite a journey. We've covered everything from haunted castles to ghostly legends and everything in between.
We've encountered heartbroken spirits, mischievous specters, and even a legendary monster.
And through it all, we've seen how these stories, these whispers from the past, continue to shape our understanding of the world around us.
Exactly. These tales, they teach us about history, about culture, and about ourselves. They remind us that the line between fact and fiction is often blurred, and that sometimes the most unsettling stories are the ones that might just be true.
So the next time you find yourself in an old house or walking through a mist-shrouded glen, Keep your ears open and your mind open. You never know what whispers from the past might be waiting to be heard.
Until next time, happy haunting.